Which one is the real Gabe? On the show, you put yourself down actually quite a bit. Do you really have a low opinion of yourself? Are you fundamentally like this guy who really thinks like I suck and I just get up every day and put one foot in front of the other one and do the best I can? Or do you have a lot of confidence? Because you almost at the same time have to have a ton of confidence to get in front of the camera and do the speaking and do all the things.
You're listening to Inside Bipolar, a Healthline Media podcast, where we tackle bipolar disorder using real-world examples and the latest research.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the podcast. My name is Gabe Howard, and I live with bipolar disorder.
And I'm Dr. Nicole Washington, a board-certified psychiatrist.
And we are live. We are literally in studio. And believe it or not, this is the first time that Dr. Nicole and I have ever occupied physical space together. Am I handsome in person?
Yes.
Aww,
Very Gabe.
You only stuttered for a second.
Very. And you could literally reach out and touch me. I'm hopeful
we can
you
high five.
don't. We can. Oh yeah.
Oh, you're hopeful.
I'm hopeful you don't reach out and touch me during this recording, but we could. You could actually reach out and touch me.
That is true. Now, longtime listeners of the show know that Dr. Nicole lives in Oklahoma. I live in Ohio, and we record over the internet. I mean, the virtual studio is fantastic, and of course, we also want to give a shout out to Lisa, who produces and edits the whole show, and that's how it's been done for almost 100 episodes. Yeah. And now, finally, we are in New York City recording our first ever live episode, and we decided it would be fun to do sort of a fan service episode and talk about sort of the behind the scenes of Inside Bipolar, but also talk about things that relate to living with bipolar. So it's like a both.
A both and
a little more.
And a little more.
It's extra. Right? We've run out of ideas, right? This
Where
is the
I
clip
come
show.
From, we call that a little lanyard.
There you go. Okay.
A little something
all right.
extra.
So do you want to ask the first question, or do you want me to ask the first question?
No, I'm going first.
All right, you can go first.
I'm going first.
All
I'm
right,
going first.
All right.
You talk a lot about, my bipolar peeps, and you're always talking to them and getting ideas for the show. But what do people really tell you about the show? Like, what do they think about you working with a psychiatrist?
I got to tell you, first, you reminded me that if you have show ideas, email show@psychcentral.com. Glad we got that shameless plug-in. It really does inform the show. But I get a lot of criticism. But it's not just criticism for working with a doctor. It's also criticism for big pharma. It's criticism for using research. There is a lot of people who are in a very vulnerable state, a very desperate state, and have a lot of very strong feelings and opinions. And they're really fearful of the medical community because of two things. One, the medical community can be scary, like hard stop. Just because something is helpful doesn't mean it is not terrifying. But two, people with mental illness are mentally ill, right? They're suffering, they're processing. They may have paranoia, they may have anxiety, they may have depression. There's something going wrong that might not let them see the bigger picture that maybe a psychiatrist can see. So do I get pushback? Yeah, like tons of it. Tons of it. People all the time, you're a sellout. You're only doing this for the money. You don't care about us. And I'm like, I'm not only doing it for the money. I'm doing it like I do. Dr. Nicole, I like the money. Yeah. A little bit.
None of us are working for free. I hear you, Gabe. I hear what you're saying. I'm picking up what you're putting down. I got you.
But I got to tell you, the patient community has always sort of had this. We've talked before on the show about the anti-psychiatry movement, and that, we've talked about how everybody wants to take fish oil because the $1 million supplement industry is somehow better than the $1 million pharmaceutical industry, and on and on and on and on and on. So that's really nothing new over on the patient side. But I got to ask. You are literally a board-certified psychiatrist working for a mental patient. Like, do you get pushback?
First of all, by nature of the show, my colleagues aren't listening to the show because the show is for people living with bipolar disorder. The show is for loved ones of people living with bipolar disorder. I've met some loved ones of people living with bipolar disorder who've had things to say. Do you feel like this is the best outlet? Do you feel like this is going to go well for you? But my colleagues in general, I don't think they care. I mean, I will say, so as an industry, psychiatrists are very reserved. We are a very conservative bunch. In general, medicine is still stuck in how we've always practiced medicine. So you go to medical school, you do a residency, and then you see a bunch of patients until you kill over and die, and then somebody takes over. Like, that's literally how medicine works. So there are a lot of doctors in general who see people that do things like this as somehow less than. So they see doctors in general who are on social media, who have a social media presence, who do media things, who podcast. They do collectively, I think, see us as kind of a joke sometimes because they feel like we're not doing the work. We're not grinding and we're not doing all the things, and it feels too showy for them. And psychiatrists are so big on boundaries, and we don't show any of our personal side, and you're supposed to keep this wall between you and the patient. And so something like this would really kind of fly in the face of that. And I do think there are probably a lot of people who don't agree with what I'm doing, but I also know they absolutely would never say that to my face because they already know what kind of smoke they will get if they come to me personally with some foolishness like that. So no one has ever said anything to my face. Do I think people probably don't like it? Probably. Do I care? No.
So here's why I asked the question. So let's go back to when Inside Bipolar was just an idea that Gabe had. Yeah. So I started Inside Mental Health 11 years ago, back when it was called the Psych Central Show, right?
And then it was bought by I knew it was called the Psych Central Show.
Yeah, it had a whole other identity. Yeah,
okay.
Who knew? And then it became Inside Mental Health, and I said, hey, I want to do a show just for people with bipolar disorder, and I've got this idea. And I pitched the idea to Healthline, who obviously greenlit it. We're literally in New York, right? So it all worked. But this is all before Dr. Nicole came on board. And what I said is, hey, what I want to do is I want to bridge the gap. It's really important to me that we have the lived experience, part because that's the only way I can be on the show, right? So that's obviously really, really important. Plus, I think it's patient advocacy, yes. I do feel is very important. But I also wanted there to be a medical component. I wanted a therapist, a psychiatrist, a psychologist. And they're like, well, okay, if you can find a doctor who will work with you, okay, you can try. All right. And I'm like, okay. And then I set out to find a medical professional. And I want you to know it was not easy. The reason I brought up Inside Mental Health is because I had been hosting that show and interviewing high-end doctors, people from Oxford, people from Stanford, people from Harvard, high-end researchers. The father of CBT was on the show. And I reached out to some of those guests and said, hey, I want to host a podcast and we will do it as equals. And they're like, yeah, good luck with that. And I really got a lot of pushback. It started to become disheartening. And I remember that initial pitch meeting and they're like, sure, if you can put it together, we'll see what we can do. And I sort of understood the energy in the room at that moment because they were like, Gabe, I think you're going to struggle. And I did. I struggled hard. And then I found you. A lot of people wouldn't even entertain the idea. How do you feel about that?
Short answer is I think it's dumb, but the full answer is it's kind of sad. It is dumb, but it's kind of sad. But that's where we are because I'm supposed to be the doctor and you're supposed to be the patient. Now, however, my lived experience as a Black woman in medicine is that I don't fit the mold anyway. I don't fit the mold of what a doctor is supposed to be anyway. So doing this didn't feel like that big of a stretch because everything I've done has been outside of what people expected this role to be. So for me, it was like, oh yeah, sure, that sounds fun. I probably have an hour or two a week I can carve out of my life to do this podcast thing with this guy, random guy. He seems okay. He's a little loud, but he's fine.
You can turn down the volume, doctor. You're wearing headphones.
I was like, he's a little big and loud, but we can make it work. I'm sure it'll be fine. But yeah, for me, there was no question about like, should I do it or what will it do to my career? Because I just don't think of this as being something that could damage my reputation in the world.
We are still, almost 3 years later, 100 episodes in, 2 Webby honorees, a couple of Signal Awards, and a handful of other awards. We are still the only podcast co-hosted by a patient and a doctor in mental health on the air on a major network. So despite massive success, people aren't even trying to mimic us. And that tells me that we've really hit on something amazing. And not to get all mushy, but, thank you for coming along for the ride. You changed the trajectory of my advocacy and helped bring this podcast here. So,
that's
thank you.
very sweet. If I were a hugger, I'd hug you. I'm not, though.
This was the moment. We got close.
We got you. I almost reached across the tape. I almost
there.
Patted you on the back, but that was very sweet. No, thank you. And I do think that setups like this are tough, though, because this could also easily have gone really wrong. I mean, as successful as this has been, it could have also been a big old ugly train wreck, too. I mean, if we didn't both have really good professional boundaries and really good personal boundaries, and it could have gone really ugly. So I could see why this kind of thing doesn't happen a ton, right? It couldn't be me and my own personal patient that I'm doing something like this with. I mean, it takes the right person in that chair. It takes the right person in this chair. And that's just not an easy combo to find.
It's not. And Dr. Nicole, I think we've discussed that to death. So let's go ahead and segue to another question, which is really similar to the first one. How do you feel about patient influencers? You are literally a board certified psychiatrist. You are an expert. You went to medical school. You studied this. And then people like me, we just show up and we're like, hi, I'm going to explain mental illness to you. And then we amass millions of followers and we have podcasts. And you're like, wow, I'm so glad I spent $300,000 in 8 years of my life to learn this so that this idiot can get on the internet. I got to imagine you have some feelings about this.
I have lots of feelings about this game. No, it's mixed for me. On the one hand, I can 100% appreciate somebody who says, hey, I live with this thing and I want to go out and I want to share my experience with other people who live with this thing, because we know people like to feel a connection. Sometimes a person may listen to you before they will listen to me, even if we're saying the same thing, because they feel connected to you. There's a trust there. I am fully aware that the world, even more so now than ever, has a strong mistrust of the medical system. I get that. And I will be the first one to say the medical system did a lot to make that happen. We brought a lot of this on ourselves over the years. So I get that part. My beef comes in with the person who is just out here saying stuff with no kind of knowledge behind it. They're just saying, well, my own experience is this thing. I'm not going to tell you anything about the stuff I did to mess up my own situation. I'm just going to point out what the doctors did wrong and the medical system did wrong. And I'm just going to point out everybody else's flaws. I'm not going to say anything about anything I could have done different. And I'm just going to tell you how much everybody sucks and how they ruined my life. Those are the ones that I have the biggest issue with. Because people are going to identify with that level of passion, and they're going to identify with that person who feels picked on and who feels like the world is against them. They're going to identify with that feeling to a dangerous degree. I mean, one of the things I do enjoy about our conversations is that you always will say, but come on now, y'all. Come on, bipolar folks. Like, this is what we need to do too. Like, this is our part. And I like the approach of, I have my part to do, the system has its part to do, and that's how it all should come together. I can appreciate that. But people that are just out here just bumping the gums and just, I don't know, keyboard gangsters out here typing random stuff about stuff, it wears me out, frankly.
They're not constrained by fact.
No.
This is the biggest thing that really worries me. They're not constrained by, they can say whatever they want.
Exactly.
And I've seen some just egregious examples of misinformation, loud and proud, with 10 million views that's gone viral. I get emails like, oh my God, Gabe, here's the new cure. And they use the word cure for bipolar disorder. I'm like, that's amazing. That person's going to win the Nobel. Like, oh, this is a medical breakthrough. Wow, this changes everything. What is it? Oh, you buy it at the gas station. Like, how did you, like, no. And I'm not a doctor. But everything old is new again, right? Like, so I'm pushing 50. I don't like to admit it, but I'm pushing 50. And I was alive in the 90s. And in the 90s, before the internet, I mean, the internet was really, really new, but there was no social media. There was no influencers. None of this culture existed yet. Mm-hmm. There was a gentleman named Kurt Cobain. And in 1991, Kurt Cobain wrote a song called lithium. And in one of our first episodes, you told me that as a psychiatrist, you prescribed this medication to people with bipolar disorder, which is a frontline treatment.
Yes.
And people were like, no. Some rock star from 20 years ago wrote a song about his experience with it and didn't like it. I don't want it. And you had to explain to these people because of a song, not even a current song, a 20-year-old song that may or may not have been, Kurt Cobain wasn't showing this as medical documentary. He wasn't showing it as fact. He just wrote a song about his experience on lithium, and then an entire generation of people don't want to take it.
Yeah.
Is influencer culture that on steroids?
Yes, absolutely. And I don't get, honestly, I don't get the Kurt Cobain reference that much anymore because we're getting old. And the younger folks are not bringing up Kurt Cobain in the song Lithium. They just aren't. There was a time when that was a very, very big deal. Now they're bringing up these social media influencers. Now they're coming in and saying, hey, I follow this person and they said blah, blah, blah. Or I was on a Reddit thread and I read da, 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 da. And that is what I'm seeing more, those kinds of references. Because we didn't have Reddit and blogs and Facebook and Instagram. We just didn't have that stuff back when we were younger. So when those folks, that's what they referenced. Now they reference influencers who seemingly are talking directly to them and saying, hey, don't do it. Doctors are out to get you. They're just out trying to make money to pad their pockets. They don't really care about you. They're directly looking into the camera like, don't do it. You know, they're talking to them. I mean, Kurt Cobain wasn't talking to you. You just took that and said, oh, that's a good message. I'm going to keep that point. These people are talking to them, which makes it that much harder.
The compare and contrast, and the reason that I brought it up is because if just a song about somebody's lived experience can influence the patient community to bring it to their Dr. Nicole's and want different treatments, et cetera, based on just pop culture, I can only imagine what's going on in influencer culture. But I also want to point out that influencers didn't invent this. This was always an issue. People who are suffering from severe and persistent mental illness, people with bipolar disorder, people who are vulnerable, people who are scared, people who are guessing, are always finding things to latch on.
Right.
In the 90s, it was this Nirvana song. In 2025, it's the Reddit thread or social media. But the through line and the comparable is that you're scared. You don't understand, and you're looking for somebody to agree with you. And I think that's what we need to educate on. It's okay to watch these influencers. It's okay to like the song Lithium. I got to tell you, as a guy who was on Lithium for 10 years, the song hit.
I've never heard the song.
Oh, it's a great song. And
I've never heard the song.
Oh my God, it's a great song. And he's talking about how it gives him dry mouth and how he has
really?
And how he has sexual side effects.
I've never listened to this song.
Like the dude is spot on, but he's not making social commentary. He's just like, hey, I'm really suffering, and this medication is like making me kind of hazy.
So the song really is about lithium.
It's literally about lithium.
I have had multiple patients bring this up over the years, and I just have never listened to the song because I thought, I don't want to hear this.
It hits.
But now I'm thinking maybe I should go listen to the song. I've never listened to the song.
It's a good song. It's a good song.
I will say, though, back then, that was a rare thing for a person who had access to that many people to talk about mental illness. Nobody was talking about lithium or bipolar disorder. Nobody was talking about that. I can appreciate with the influencers that they're at least talking about it, though. I think it's valuable, and I think they do deserve a space in the space. I think that having a variety of people out talking about their mental illness is fantastic. I don't get upset when patients come in with some random blog or article or influencer profile they want to share with me. I don't get upset because at least it got them talking and it got them thinking. I think that it's valuable that everybody with all their opinions are in the space and out here talking about their mental health experience. I think it's great. It's just frustrating to me, like most things in life. It's the louder, angrier, seemingly most uneducated people on a topic that get the most attention because they are the loudest and they're the ones that people remember because they're all passionate and loud, and that's what folks remember and that's what people latch on to.
Thank you, Dr. Nicole. I know that you don't have a problem with influencers because clearly you arguably are one. And yeah.
I don't consider myself an influencer.
Yeah, listen, I don't consider myself an influencer either, but I can't help but notice that we work for an internet company influencing people's, medical health decisions. But you're right, we're not influencers. Come on, man.
I don't consider myself an influencer, but you know what's also really funny? I also don't consider myself a podcaster.
What are all these people doing here?
If you ask me to describe myself career-wise, 100%.
Well, I'd go with doctor.
Well, no, doctor, yes, but I absolutely never say, "Oh, and I'm a I never describe myself as a podcaster.
I never describe myself as a doctor.
You're not.
Oh.
So there's a difference there. But I've never described myself as a podcaster. I see myself as a doctor who is on this podcast with you, and I serve a sidekick role to you in this. Maybe I see myself here just keeping you out of trouble. I don't know. I think keeping you on the up and up, keeping you out of trouble. I'm just out here over on the side, minding my business. But I really don't describe myself as a podcaster.
It's like your hobby. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. It's like the side hustle. It's not your main source of income or your career trajectory. It's just this thing that you do because you see value in it. And you're not my sidekick, hard stop. If anything, I'm yours. But we put out, polls all the time. Who's your favorite host? And you always win. So if anybody's the sidekick, it's clearly me. But all joking aside, I understand that podcasting is not your full-time job, being a board-certified psychiatrist is. But thank you for taking the time to do this because it's important. And I do wish that more doctors would reach people where they're at. And I think that's a through line for me. I can say all the right facts and I can get them medically reviewed, but having you sitting next to me and say, Gabe's spot on, he is correct, has more value in my mind and clearly our audience's mind. So I don't think we should dismiss that so quickly. So whether you want to be a podcaster or want to be an influencer or not,
I'm an old lady influencer.
Maybe just a little bit. I wouldn't go with. I would never say old lady because I want to live.
Old lady influencer.
No.
I am. This is really a very aside, right? Very, very aside. And, Lisa's going to be really mad because she hates when we
we're right down the rabbit hole.
She hates when we go off the rails, but we're going to go off the rails for a second. So, old lady, I'm in Louisiana. I had a recent death of a really dear friend, and I'm in Louisiana, and I'm gonna go eat comfort food because I need comfort food. And so, where do I go when I'm at home for comfort food? I go to Piccadilly, right? Because I do. And me and all of the other elderly people in Baton Rouge were in Piccadilly around the same time of day. It was like 3:00. It really wasn't lunch. It really wasn't dinner. And I get to the register with my tray of goodies, and the lady says, "Do you want the 1995 special, or do you want to use your senior citizen discount?" And I paused. And I paused. See, your mouth is open, right?
Did you burn the place down? I'd have to burn it down
for a second, and I almost said, "I'm not a senior citizen," but then I said, "Which one is cheapest?"
Because that's what I'd say too.
I want the one that's cheap.
That was going to be my answer.
Which one is the cheapest? Which one's going to save me the most money? And then it ended up being that they were both the same. But then I went and sat down. I pulled out my cell phone, looked at myself, my camera phone, and I thought, okay, girl. So I'm an old lady influencer, and I'll take that. I'll take it. And that's an area I'm working on. I have to own my podcast presence and what I'm doing. But that does bring up a good question for me to you, because you do a lot of self-deprecating things. You do a lot of self-deprecating humor on the show. You put yourself down actually quite a bit. And so I don't always know, do you really have a low opinion of yourself? Like, is it like, are you fundamentally like this guy who really thinks like I suck and I just get up every day and put one foot in front of the other one and do the best I can? Or do you have a lot of confidence? Because you almost at the same time have to have a ton of confidence to get in front of the camera and do the speaking and do all the things. So help me balance. And I will tell you, people do ask, I do get that question sometimes. Is it hard to work with you because of our differences? Because you're so like, you're like you're really big and larger than life and you take up a lot of space in a room. And I am seemingly a little bit more on the, let me just find my corner in the room and go occupy it and be happy. So people always ask, like Gabe's he's so big. And which one is the real Gabe?
Man, this is the real Gabe is the unhappy one. I mean, that's really the reality. It's you're a psychiatrist. You teach people to fake it till you make it, right? I just never made it, but I got really good at faking it. When we were talking about influencers, you pointed out that the loud, gregarious, charismatic people pay attention to them. I have zero confidence in Gabe Howard, right? I hate myself and I'm pointless, but I really believe in my mission. I really believe in my message. And if all I have to do is be really loud to get eyes on me, and if that will make people listen, and if that will catch the attention of a board certified psychiatrist and the largest health website in the world, and I've been associated with, large mental health projects, et cetera, if that will get eyes on the mission, I have unlimited confidence in the mission. My goals 100%. And then I just steal and sap off that confidence and say, Gabe sucks and everybody should rightly hate me. And I believe that as sure as I believe that you are a board certified psychiatrist. But they should believe in the mission. And when I leave, I assume that everybody's like, well, he sucked, but he's right. And I take great solace in that because it was never about Gabe. It was never supposed to be about Gabe. I didn't set out to build fans. I set out to build critical thinkers. I didn't set out to become popular. I set out so that Gabe Howard in 1996, who was crying in his bed wishing he was dead, didn't have to be alone. And I feel that I've achieved all of those things. But you asked me very specifically, who's the real me? Yeah, I'm worthless. There's really no denying that. The data supports this idea that the mission was always bigger than me. I am just a part of it, and if I go away, there's 100 other people who would take my place. So I'm not necessary, and that's okay. At least I've got something to do, and I'm in New York with a doctor. I mean, that's something. Right?
That is something.
There you go.
But how do you reconcile that thought? Because somewhere somebody's listening and they say, well, shoot, I mean, Gabe is popular and I think he's pretty fantastic and I follow him and I think he's a great guy and I love everything he's done. And if he thinks he's worthless, well, I must be a real piece of poop. I mean, how do you reconcile that? Because I know that those are the kind of things that you probably think about.
It's really tough. One time I was at a speaking engagement and there was a woman who was super excited to meet me. And she asked if she could take a picture and she was standing next to me. She goes, oh my God, I've never met a celebrity. And without even thinking, I said, oh honey, you still haven't. She kind of got a little deflated because she was so excited to meet me. And I think about that a lot because I visited my lack of confidence on her and that wasn't fair. And I didn't mean to. Now, I don't want anybody to hear that I ruined it. No, she wanted like a thank you or an awesome or let's get more pictures and I realized it instantly and I did everything I could to fix it. And I believe that I did. I spent a lot of time with her. I signed her book. We took a lot of pictures. We made a TikTok reel. I mean, I saved the day, but focusing on that really little moment, I realized that once again, it's not about me. So I don't know how I reconcile it. It's a job. Firefighters don't have to be brave. They just have to run into the building. Some people would argue that running into the building is brave, but it's irrelevant. Their motivation is irrelevant. If they run into the building and they save the people, then the outcome was accomplished. If they're like, oh, I wasn't brave, it's just my job, who cares? All right? They put out the fire and nobody died. Yay! Sitting around talking about whether or not they're heroes or they're brave or they have more guns. It all seems so foolish to me. But I do want to swing back to something that you said earlier, that how do I give people hope knowing that I feel this way? And I think that is where the hope is. One of the things that disgusted me really early on was this all or nothing thinking that we had in mental health, that every single person was brave, every single person was a hero, every single person was triumphant, every single person who has ever been diagnosed with a serious and persistent mental illness in the history of ever is always pictured on top of the mountain with their hands up in the air. People don't feel this way. We have just made mental health advocacy just so saccharine and just frankly kind of BS. You know what people in my community consider success? We got out of bed. We supported ourselves. We went to work. We don't have time for this cheering crowd parade nonsense. We're not heroes. We're just trying to live our lives. We're trying to find these little moments. You know, for me, it's concerts. We've talked about it before. It's movies. It's time with my friends. There's these little moments where I'm standing there and I'm like, it's worth it. It's worth it. I'm glad I'm here. There's little things that happened, like doing this and coming to New York, when I'm like, you know what? It's worth it. But yeah, there's long stretches of self-doubt and hopelessness and sleepless nights and anxiety and paranoia and depression and crying and awfulness. And I think, why am I doing this? And I just hang on to the next thing. And I think when people hear that message, they're like, wait a minute. That dude just said that I'm going to work and I'm being useful and I'm achieving things. And I found some moments at a concert or a sporting event or something. And he's saying that that's a life well lived. I can get behind that. I'm not climbing Mount Everest tomorrow. That's nonsense. These posters are stupid. And I've said for years, I'm for the these posters are stupid crowd. I'm nobody's inspiration and I'm nobody's hero. I'm just trying to make it. And I think that's how I do it. And also, you said something earlier during the influencer thing, which is you want as many opinions out there as possible. Yeah, there's a lot of people who hate me. Oh my God. You should see my DMs. You should see my emails. We have comments on this show right now that are like, Gabe should not be a mental health advocate because he said X. Right. I'm like, first off, I talk constantly. I'm eventually going to piss everybody off. There's just no way. Everything I say has the power to, inspire or reject. And I'm surprised rejection doesn't happen more often, quite frankly. So you're going to disagree with something I say. You and I are colleagues and friends that have known each other for 3 years and we don't agree with everything. I think that's okay. And I think this podcast models that. And I think that this podcast models that, and this is my least favorite phrase in all of mental health advocacy, but I think this podcast models that it's okay not to be okay. and I am proud of that.
But you don't get to decide whose hero you are, right? You can say, well, I'm nobody's hero. I'm not a... What was the word you used?
I mean, my dog likes me.
What was the word you used? I'm
nobody's hero. I'm nobody's inspiration.
Right. So you say I'm nobody's inspiration. I'm nobody's hero. But that's not really a call you get to make because it doesn't come from your angle that call gets made. So I can be a listener and say, Gabe is my inspiration. Gabe's my hero. I can be a different listener who says, Gabe is stupid and he inspires me to do nothing but never listen to Inside Bipolar again. Both of those things can be true depending on who the source of information is. And that is the whole point.
Exactly. You've hit the nail on the head. Once I put it out for public consumption, the opinion is I don't get the opinion. I can't have it both ways. I can't put something out for public consumption and then criticize how they consume it or how they relate to it. So I really do my best not to yuck anybody's yum. And I do my best not to fall down the rabbit hole of feeding the trolls. It is hard sometimes. The people around me are very comforting and put upon. And probably deserve to be paid more.
I mean, I think anybody will take a little more pay, but not because they have to work with you.
Remember, we got an email that said, hey, you're far too hopeful, you're far too happy. And we actually put out an episode that won an award called The Gritty Side of Bipolar, where we agreed no positivity, no hope, stark reality. And it was a dark episode, and it's one of our most popular episodes. It literally won an award. It caught the attention all over the internet, and they're like, finally, somebody's not lying to us. I'm glad. I'm glad that we could speak to those people, but it took a lot out of us. If you recall, You were just like, dude, you that's dark. You're like, that's so dark. And I'm like, but am I wrong? And you're like, no, I didn't say you were wrong. I was like, right, we promised not to clean it up. And you were like, right, but don't we want to give some people some hope? And I'm like, I don't know. When we gave people hope, they wrote us nasty emails. It's hard being a podcaster. You don't know because you're just a doctor.
I'm not a podcaster.
You're not a podcaster.
If I were, I'd care. I don't know. I think it also always goes back to the person who's listening and the person whose opinion that is. People like to put you in a you're a glass half empty, you're a glass half full kind of person category. I see myself as if the glass holds 16 ounces and the glass has 8 ounces in it, then it's at half capacity. I am not a like half full, half empty. I don't care. It's at 50%. Like, call it what you want. And maybe because I say it with a smile, or I guess I could frown when I say the glass has 50% of its contents, and people would say, oh, she's on my side. Maybe because I say it with a smile, or I have a little brightness to my voice when I say it, people think that's positive. But I'm just stating facts. Like, the fact is, the glass holds 16 ounces. The glass has 8 ounces in it. It is at 50% of what it can do. That's how I see every individual person who is living with bipolar disorder. I know your full capacity. We know what we think your full capacity is. And this is where you are right now. And this is our goal. And this is what we can do. And maybe that comes across as she's too positive, but I just don't agree with that.
I love the message that it's individualized. And I think that's really what I want our listeners to take to heart, right? Maybe Gabe needs a doom and gloom touch because that's my personality and that's what works. And maybe your next patient needs a very hopeful spin. And maybe you're saying it exactly the same way, and we're just hearing it however we need to hear it. But if you're evaluating us on, are you better today than you were yesterday? I think that's really powerful. And I hope that this podcast in some small way helps people be better tomorrow than they were today, than they were yesterday. So I guess you're saying you're not positive or negative. People just assign you whatever they want to assign you, and it's whatever they need.
Absolutely. And it may not serve them, what they assign me. It may not be helpful, but people are going to assign a meaning to my words, even if I use the exact same words.
I still think that you are very positive, and I am very pessimistic. I still think you're the happy one, and I say realistic, which you pointed out is just a code word for you just want to be angry and get away with it. But I said what I said. Dr. Nicole, on that note, we have been doing this podcast for over 100 episodes, almost 3 years, right? And we're nearing the end of this episode. And then the last question that I wanted to ask you was, what's your favorite moment? And in all of the moments, what is your favorite podcasting moment on Inside Bipolar?
The ones that you weren't there, and I got to. I'm kidding. You were really ready for me to say something really sweet, and you were so bright. I'm sorry, I couldn't help but crush it. You were so bright. You were like, what's she gonna?
Remember when I said you're the pessimist or the optimistic one? I forgot mean. You are pessimist, or you are optimistically mean. I just I'm going to set you up again.
No. I would probably say I don't have a moment where I said, oh my gosh, this is like the most heartwarming moment. I don't have that. The things I appreciate the most about the show, the things I've enjoyed the most, doing this show has really given me a lot more insight as a psychiatrist into what my patients think. My visits are not lengthy by any means. We've talked a lot about how the healthcare system just really doesn't allow us to get to know our patients as doctors in the way that I feel like I could make the most difference in their lives. And so when I spend time with you, I really get to start thinking about things the way my patients probably really think about things, because they tell me something and I take it, I process it. But a lot of times I'm processing it in my language, in my way of thinking. And I don't always have the extra time to really dig into, what do you mean by that? Well, what does that mean to you? Because that sounds a little bit different than how I think about things. And I do that, but I just don't get to go as deep. And so the show has given me a chance to start thinking about people a little bit differently and thinking more about them, the person, not them, the person with bipolar disorder. So for me, that has been the best thing for me about doing the show. So now it's your turn. Tell me what has been your best moment of the show.
I have a couple. I have like a best show moment, and then I have like a best show adjacent moment, right? So first and foremost, this is probably the best moment, right? Like we get to meet in person. I mean, I think it's just really cool. I get to hang out with you in New York City. That's just awesome. But let's put that aside. My favorite show moment is the first Webby. Right, being a Webby honoree and having really just the larger podcasting community, you know, you've been very supportive. My family has been very supportive. Our fans have been very supportive. Healthline has been very supportive. But they all got skin in the game, right? And we want their support. We want their support to continue. But you know, it's like when your mom tells you you're a good artist, right? But then strangers do it. And then other people, they validate your work and they say, hey, we have evaluated you against all of your peers and everything that's out there, tens of thousands of entries, and you've got something here. I was really proud of that from a mental health advocacy standpoint, because I didn't know what was going to happen. You never know what's going to happen with podcasts. First off, everybody has a podcast now. Podcasts are super easy to get, right? They're not difficult. So the fact that we were able to rise up, I think, speaks well for what we're doing. And I was really, really proud of that. But putting that aside, you know, one time I gave a speech somewhere, and when I was on stage and it was time for Q&A, somebody raised their hands and asked me a question. And then when I was done, they said, and what does Dr. Nicole think? And I said, excuse me. And they're like, well, what's Dr. Nicole's opinion on this? And I was like, I don't speak for Dr. Nicole. And everybody in the audience was like, like there seemed to be some confusion that you and I were not like in complete lockstep discussing everything. I was like, what does Dr. Nicole think? I don't know. She didn't think anything. It was surreal. But it was also, these people were fans of the podcast. Yes. I was brought there because of the podcast. They all love the podcast. Yes. And in their minds, I'm intrinsically linked to you. And that was fun. It was this like, well, what does Dr. Nicole think? Like
I don't know.
She thinks this is hilarious that you think that I have any idea what she's thinking. She's thinking she wants to be done. She wants to disconnect. She doesn't know how she got roped into this, and that somebody needs to bring her coffee. That's really the most I got. But that was fun. It was a fun moment. Those are my two favorite moments. So you think
awesome.
You think we've got another 100 and some episodes in us? Like, how long do you think we can do this?
Oh, I don't even think I realized it had been over 100. So I would say we'll just keep talking until people tell us to shut up.
I love that. But people tell me to shut up a lot, though. You being the leading cheerleader.
When they tell us to shut up.
All right.
When they tell us collectively to shut it down, that's when we'll shut it down.
We'll be good. All right, everybody. That is our show for today. Listen, we need you to do a few things. One, wherever you downloaded this podcast, please like and subscribe, follow. It doesn't cost anything, and it's the best way to ensure that you don't miss a thing. And also, we need a favor. Share the show with everybody you know. Share your favorite episodes on social media. Share it in a support group. Share it everywhere. We don't have an advertising budget, so we're counting on you. Sharing the show with the people you know is how we're going to grow. My name is Gabe Howard, and I wrote the book Mental Illness is an Asshole and Other Observations, which you can get on Amazon. But you don't want to do that. You want to go to my website, gabehoward.com, and buy it there because I can sign it and throw in some free swag.
And I'm Dr. Nicole Washington. You can find me on all social media platforms at Dr. Nicole Psych or over on my website, drnicolepsych.com.
And we will see everybody next time on the Inside Bipolar podcast.
You've been listening to Inside Bipolar from Healthline Media and PsychCentral.com. Have feedback for the show? Email us at show@psychcentral.com. Previous episodes can be found at psychcentral.com/IBP or on your favorite podcast player. Thank you for listening.